Greetings, hostages of the Temple of the Holy Simulation. I'm so glad to greet you on this beautiful day where reality once again spectacularly trips up the official narrative of not lying, not stealing, and not betraying. Welcome to this space of catharsis where, if we don't laugh at the national misfortune, we'd have to start crying. And the truth is, mascara is way too expensive to waste it on tears over politicians. Today I bring you a first-class menu. Directly from the International Justice Buffet, we have a dish that's served cold. But in the National Palace, it's already causing heartburn of biblical proportions. Today, cynicism reached export levels. The first of the 10 little angels that the United States kindly requested from the Fourth Transformation government has fallen. We'll also see how it's now impossible to keep protecting the governor on leave, Rocha Moya. And finally, the Morena Mafia is in ever deeper water. Well, everything points to Adán Augusto Lopez being about to meet the same fate. It looks like he's about to trade his fine suits for a charming orange jumpsuit, exclusively designed by the United States Department of Justice. So stay tuned because things are heating up. Let's get to it. You have to give the Mexican political class some credit. Their inexhaustible ability to act as if we all suffer from collective amnesia. The great illusionist act of this week is called the Sinaloa case. Now you see it, now you don't. A staged performance where tantrum diplomacy converges with a governor who vanishes from the official narrative. Imagine the scene, the National Palace, the spotlights on, the morning coffee kicking in for the press, and suddenly the uncomfortable question of the day. Excuse me, Madam President, is it true that the Financial Intelligence Unit, the UIF, froze the accounts of the governor on leave, Ruben Rocha Moya, because of his alleged and widely publicized connections with the Sinaloa guys? Any ordinary person would expect a strong response. We are investigating him to the fullest extent, or that's false, I would vouch for him completely. But no, Claudia Sheinbaum's response was a masterpiece of political escapism, complete ignorance. I don't have that information. More or less, that's what she said. You know she never knows anything. When it suits her, of course. It's fascinating. The UIF, that financial arm that's capable of detecting if an average citizen didn't declare the 3 pesos they got as a birthday gift, turns out to operate in complete secrecy when it comes to one of their own. The strongman of Sinaloa, whose name has appeared in more U.S. court files than on the Senate attendance list, walks under a cloud of suspicions so thick you'd need a fog light to see him. But at the highest levels of power, it turns out that nobody knows anything. To divert attention from this uncomfortable memory gap, the strategy of the week was to press the wounded national pride button. A day before this selective amnesia, the federal government flew into a rage and complained to the United States about the grave sin of having denied or ignored at least 36 extradition requests made by Mexico. What nerve from Uncle Sam! How dare they not send us the criminals we ask for? I mean, the anger is understandable. It's truly frustrating that Washington doesn't cooperate so that those people can come to Mexico. Oh well, to spend a few months in medium security prisons with a la carte menus, or for a federal judge to rule that there were flaws in due process and let them go free after 15 minutes because of a wording technicality. The official stance was strict, the same rules for everyone. A beautiful phrase, almost poetic, that sounds spectacular on the podium, but it falls apart when citizens remember that in this country the same rules depend entirely on what color vest you're wearing. The real joke, and a dark one at that, is that while in Mexico City this chess game of statements and denials is being played, in Sinaloa the official narrative can't even be held up with toothpicks anymore. Rocha Moya's leave of absence is the elephant in the room that everyone is trying to cover up with a tissue. They want to sell us the idea that the situation is under control, that the institutions are working, and that national sovereignty is safe from the clutches of the FBI and the DEA. But the reality is that the political fate of one of the country's most strategic regions is not being decided at the polls or in Mexican courts. It's being cooked up in the district courts of the neighboring country, driven by leaks and statements from protected witnesses who, conveniently, are better at setting the agenda than the Interior Ministry itself. In the end, the Sinaloa case is the perfect reflection of how politics is done nowadays. If reality doesn't fit what you planned for the morning press conference, you simply deny reality. You blame foreigners, accuse the opposition of being vultures, and let the weekend go by, hoping that next week a new scandal will bury the previous one. And speaking of scandals, there was just no way to know. Really, no one saw it coming. We're facing an event that leaves us as cold as a Michoacana popsicle in the middle of winter. It turns out that the former Secretary of Public Security of Sinaloa, General Gerardo Mérida Sanchez, has been arrested in Arizona. Yes, you heard that right. The air of the American desert is much more revealing than the air purified by gunpowder in Culiacan. Let's remember, for those with short-term memory or who only get their information from the other data, who is Gerardo Mérida. This good man arrived in Sinaloa with his chest full of medals and his mouth full of promises, right in the middle of one of the most brutal security crises the state has ever experienced. Under his command, we saw it all. Disappearances that were called voluntary absences, shootouts that were just isolated incidents, and a state that, according to his reports, was calmer than a convent. Naturally, in Mexico, we're skilled at acting like nothing is happening. General Mérida walked through the halls of Sinaloan power with that confidence that only comes from knowing you have the blessing from above. What they didn't tell us is that that blessing didn't cross the Arizona border. Once again, it has to be Uncle Sam who does our homework for us. Meanwhile, here the justice system is more concerned with figuring out how to reform itself so that we can all be happy and get along. Over there, the gringos, with that annoying habit they have of investigating, decide that the general has some things to explain. What is he being accused of? Well, the details are leaking out as slowly as a bureaucracy on Payday Friday, but you don't have to be a genius to guess where this is going. When a Sinaloa security secretary ends up in handcuffs in the United States, it's rarely for blowing a stop sign or for not declaring some chocolates at customs. Something fishy is happening here, and it's the type that roars and has tiger stripes. This little angel appears among the current and former Sinaloa officials that the United States Department of Justice accused of participating in a conspiracy and protection scheme in favor of the Chapitos, a faction of the Sinaloa cartel. Just that, nothing too complicated. And meanwhile, what are they saying in the Sinaloa government palace and here in the National Palace? We'll probably hear the classic, "We didn't know anything." Will we cooperate with the authorities? Or my favorite, it's a conservative plot to tarnish the transformation. It's incredible how official blindness is proportional to the size of the position. What happened to those speeches about courageous honesty? Where is the sovereignty they defend so much when it comes to hiding their own shame? But don't worry. I'm sure Chachis will tell us that the arrest was coordinated, even though we found out from the press across the border before we heard anything from the Ministry of the Interior's bulletin. Gerardo Mérida's situation isn't isolated, it's a symptom. It's a symptom of a political and military class that feels untouchable on this side of the border, but forgets that the world is a small place and the Americans have a very long reach. What's next? We'll see the parade of lawyers, the extradition requests that will take years, and of course the media noise that will try to hide the obvious. But reality is stubborn. Another security chief, another general, another national hero who ends up tainted by narco ties. You have to give the continuity government credit for one thing. When they promised to make history, they never specified whether it would be in the free textbooks or in the files of the New York federal court. We were just coming to terms with the spectacular international embarrassment of seeing the governor of Sinaloa on leave, Ruben Rocha Moya, trying to explain that he was at Disney while his state was turning into a battlefield when, boom, geopolitical Mother Nature gives us another earthquake. It turns out that stubborn reality, the one that insists on not reading the official statements from the presidency, confirms to us that Donald Trump's State Department is coming in hungry as hell. It wasn't enough for them to wipe the smiles off Sinaloans' faces, since everything indicates that the next on Washington's wish list is none other than Adán Augusto Lopez Hernandez himself, Grandpa Munster. Yes, the man with the gentle look and subtle manner, the former president's fellow Tabascan, the great operator who coordinated the presidential campaign and who now bosses around the Morena caucus in the Senate. Let's remember that while Adán Augusto was serving as governor of Tabasco back in 2019, his trusted guys weren't wasting any time. His Secretary of Public Security, Hernan Bermudez Requena, and the then prosecutor, Jaime Humberto Lastra Bastar, who today, of course, is a very distinguished federal deputy. They appeared in military organizational charts not as guardians of order, but as star public relations agents for organizations like the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. But the crown jewel of Tabasco's audacity happened in 2022. With Adán Augusto already installed as the all-powerful Secretary of the Interior, the Jalisco New Generation sent a high-profile envoy to Tabasco, Gabriel Eduardo Gonzalez, also known as El Gabo. His mission? A monumental theft of 60,000 liters of diesel, promised to none other than clients in the United Arab Emirates. The best part is the logistics plan. Parking a ship in front of the Dos Bocas refinery to fill it with stolen fuel, thanks to the complicity of Pemex. If that's not international trade and globalization of the fourth transformation, then I don't know what is. And when the Sedena intercepted El Gabo, reporting the deposits to Adán Augusto, the secretary's response was one of paternal protection. Don't worry, if you get arrested, call our contact at CEDO, the Specialized Deputy Attorney General's Office for Organized Crime Investigation. Doesn't customer service like that make you want to start a business? And what was the reaction of the great helmsman of public morals when a brave journalist from Proceso put the authentic stamped Sedena documents right in the face of the Macaspano jackass in 2022? The answer should be engraved in gold letters in the Museum of Shamelessness. Adán is an honest man. I know him well. Translation, he's my friend, and if he falls, we all fall. These are attacks from the conservative press, the classic wild card when hard facts ruin the joke. Let's go have breakfast. Well, that's just great. Pure poetry. Faced with evidence that your Secretary of the Interior is up to his neck in a report from your own army, the state's solution is to go get some chipolín tamales because even when slander doesn't stain, it still leaves a smudge. The problem is that the prosecutors from the Southern District of New York and Columbia don't like chipolín, and the smudge they're carrying already looks like activated charcoal. Unfortunately for the ruling party, the American justice system has found a foolproof method to put these puzzles together. The system of cooperating witnesses, who would rather spend 5 years in a medium security prison than spend their whole lives behind bars. Guys like Gerardo Alvarez Vasquez, also known as El Indio, a former associate of the Beltran Leyva, have already started talking in New York. And while the transnational sewer is being uncovered in today's Mexico, the welfare maid Claudia Sheinbaum finds herself in a rather picturesque spot, defending the indefensible with the same rigidity as a carnival robot. Just remember when she was asked if Adán Augusto's leadership in the Senate was sustainable after the capture in Paraguay of his former police chief Bermudez Requena, and she simply dodged the question, saying that the prosecutor's office has to do its investigations, and that so far there is nothing. Of course, because we all know that the Attorney General's office is super efficient when it comes to going after the untouchables of the ruling party. The reality is that by May 1st, they would have already informed Palenque that the extradition request against the coordinator of the majority caucus is imminent. How are they going to justify that the political strategist who ran the presidential campaign is accused of organized crime and of bankrupting the transnational oil industry? Place your bets. The script for the morning press conference is running out of defensive adjectives. Brother Adán Augusto is just one extradition request away from finding out if Mexican constitutional immunity is worth anything before a district judge in Colombia. We'll see if the inept president clutches her pearls again or if she goes with the old reliable strategy, I didn't know anything, I was just passing by. And that's how we close today's chapter. Another episode from our political showbiz where nobody knows anything, governors are absent, and conservatives get all the blame. For now, we take our leave with the satisfaction of knowing that even though Mexican justice is a pre-Hispanic myth, American justice actually does its job. Don't be surprised if tomorrow they tell us that Mérida was actually on an undercover mission to investigate American prisons from the inside. With these people, cynicism knows no bounds. Keep enjoying your daily dose of Mexican surrealism. Stay critical and above all, don't be fooled by those who say everything is going great. Remember that we are the solution and that we are at war. Mexico against Morena. I'll read your comments. See you on Monday. Remember that you can make your donations via PayPal. You can find the information in the comments section. Thanks to you, this channel stays active. It's very important to subscribe, like, and hit the bell to get notifications every time there's new content. Thank you.